Hey there, it's Diane Winger, the host of ADHD-ish, the podcast formerly known as The Driven Woman Entrepreneur, and now the podcast for business owners with big ideas and busy brains, whether you have an official ADHD diagnosis or not. We've expanded our focus so regardless of your gender or whether you identify as an entrepreneur, sole proprietor, creative, independent professional, freelancer, or all of the above, if you're driven and distracted, color outside the lines and think outside the box, this is your podcast. Let's face it, having too many brilliant ideas means dozens of projects started and offers brainstormed, but far too few actually completed and launched. Choosing what to say yes to and what to catch and release is really so hard, and that's exactly why I created ADHD-ish. Each episode offers practical strategies, personal stories, and expert insights to help you harness your busy mind and turn those potential distractions into business success. Hey, if you're anything like me, you struggle with procrastination and prioritizing, especially when you don't have built-in accountability. That's one of the reasons why body doubling, also known as virtual co-working, has become really popular, especially since so many people are now working for themselves and working remotely. I've invited Becca Groner from Focused Space to join me today to talk about why this strategy just might be the one that you've been looking for. You're going to want to make sure you listen all the way to the end when Becca and I announce our special partnership and how you can get an entire month of Focus Space for free using my code and 25% off every month after that. You also can grab a copy of Becca's Procrastination Playbook. When we say virtual co-working or body doubling, there's probably many other terms. Those are the two I'm most familiar with. What we are talking about is getting work done with accountability. What's your definition for body doubling?
Yeah, Diane, I think that's very well said. I would say for me personally, body doubling, I always say, like, what if you're doing your laundry and you really don't want to do it and you just call a friend and it makes it go by faster and you're able to accomplish it and feel better about it. So body doubling is like that. You can either be on the phone, you could be on video, or you could be at a co-working space in person. And having that feeling of being around other people who maybe are also working on something or doing something like a chore, they are going to help you to get that thing done faster. Even if they don't know they're helping you get that thing done, you're all helping each other stay accountable and feel better about being productive.
It's so funny that you mentioned laundry because it almost feels like laundry is like this universal thing that people procrastinate on, they resist, some people flat out avoid. They will be turning their underwear inside out and reusing it like they just don't want to go there. And I know there's probably like a lot of feeling of like, I must be the only weirdo who feels that way. But that was actually the very first thing when the very first body doubling session I ever went to. And there were a number of different people there. We were all on our little Zoom screens. I swear to God, probably a third of the people were doing their laundry.
I believe that.
Laundry party, you know. So what are some of the other things that you find that people are, it's just not going to get done if it isn't done this way?
Oh my gosh. Well, taxes, that's huge. And I should mention I'm a host for Focus Space, which is a body doubling platform, digital co-working space. You can use lots of ways to describe it. And we work with teams. We also work with individuals to get stuff done and help them feel more productive during the day. And so some folks that I've worked with on there finished books, which is so cool, or finished
reading
blog
or
posts, writing books. We've had, I think, at least 4 people finish their book using body doubling in our community. And a few of them have actually mentioned Focus Space in the foreword of their book, saying, I couldn't get this done without you guys and without this community. So it's been really cool to be a part of that. I have not started writing a book yet, but I feel like maybe I could do anything because I have this power of community and accountability, and I have the time and space set aside with other folks who might be cheering me on or working on their own things that are similar and or totally different. Maybe I'm writing a book, you're doing laundry. Equally satisfying to get to do that with someone else rather than feeling alone and doing that on an island where it might not get done in the same amount of time.
Getting done in the same amount of time. I think that's a really crucial point because the way I've been framing it is it's probably not going to get done at all, but maybe it will get done eventually, but it'll get done with just a fuck ton of like self recrimination and shame and just negative self talk and all the angstiness that just makes the thing, whatever it is, just so heavy and so daunting. But getting it done more quickly, not only the satisfaction of just crossing it off your list, but like making it feel lighter and easier and friendlier. And dare I say, even a little bit fun if it's something that you really hate doing, simply because you take the shame out of it and you're partnering with other people who also need the same thing. Like you're not the only one by a long shot.
Exactly. And I love that you said like that it could be more fun and enjoyable. Like laundry, it's never going to be fun, but if I'm with some other people, it might be a little bit more fun and joyful. And that's what I try to bring into sessions that I lead with Focus Space is like, how can I cheer people on and make them feel empowered and excited for that task or goal that they've been dreading or that chapter that they've been putting off of their book. And we just wrote, me and one of the other hosts at Focus Space, we worked on a procrastination playbook or resource so that we could support some of the common things that we were hearing and that we ourselves were feeling like, oh, I just don't want to do this thing. I just can't hold myself accountable. So in those moments where maybe you can't find a body double or join a community session with whatever platform you might be using for body doubling, finding ways to just like get that first step and work towards your goal and feel accomplished in a small way versus tackling something big, which can feel really daunting and scary on its own.
It's probably one of the number one reasons why people don't start something because they make it too big, right? Like I have ADHD. I work with people that have ADHD. You consider yourself ADHD-ish. You have a sister that has ADHD. At least half of the clients and members on Focus Space, which I am a partner with, also have ADHD. But like you don't have to have ADHD to need accountability. You also don't have to have some big, like shameful, scary, daunting thing. It's just normalizing the fact that everybody has to do stuff they don't enjoy doing, like all of us. For some people, it's harder, but nobody enjoys all of their daily tasks. Nobody enjoys all of the things they need to do in their job, in their business, in their life, in their relationships. Nobody does. And I think other than shame and other than feeling I should be able to do this, what else do you think stops people from taking advantage of a community like Focus Space or any of the other similar apps that offer body doubling or virtual co-working? What stops people from just saying, you know what, I need this and this makes sense and I'm going to do it?
I think the overwhelm of work on its own. I know I come from a product management background, so I was in so many meetings all day, meeting with all sorts of teams and teammates. And you just get overwhelmed by how much time you're spending already looking at a screen and in these meetings and talking to people. And maybe I'm not an introvert, but I have a lot of colleagues who've been introverts. And it can be really overwhelming again to be on meetings when you just want to kind of close off, heads down, get your work done. And so I think that can lead people to not really want to engage with body doubling or digital co-working or even in-person co-working. because they're like, I am too introverted or I'm too overwhelmed by my day already. What I think is really cool about Focus Space is we are all about introverts. A lot of our members will join with video off. They might not chime in on our chat while we're doing our co-working sessions, but they're still getting that accountability and community without needing to be super involved and super alive and awake during a community session. And then there are some extroverts who are chiming in and saying, I worked on this, or I got this done, or nice job, Diane. I see that you're finishing up your goal. And then the host in general is talking you through the session and starting with a meditation and then getting into the actual silent co-working. So I think that would probably be a barrier to entry if you're an introvert or if you're already feeling overwhelmed by your workday. And one thing we're starting to do is work with teams, because we see that maybe a whole team might need to have that extra push, and not necessarily to like be more productive, but just to feel more connected maybe, and feel like their workday is not just a total slog of this meeting, then this project, then that goal, but being able to be a part of something a little bit larger that's not just your workday as you know it, of logging onto Zooms and logging onto Slack, and feeling like it's a little bit more joyful, it's a little bit more of a community than what you're used to, and what we know from working from home throughout the pandemic or even before then. I think what me and my sessions and what some of our other hosts at Focus Space and even our competitors, what we're all trying to do is make work feel a little bit better, whether you're working for yourself or you're working on a team.
You've just said so many things that I hope I don't forget all of them in my response and reflection, because one of the things I really love about Focus Space, and I think you guys are really, really thoughtful about this, is that you and I are extroverts. So we're going to be like camera on. I even did my hair and makeup when I come to the meetings, like camera on, energy on, interaction on. Like I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity to say what I'm working on, what progress I made. I'm going to soak up all the cheers. I'm going to soak up all the hearts and the high fives and the good for you and you go girl and atta girl and all that, because that is what my brain needs, and frankly my personality. But other people are not like that, don't need to be anything like that. And so for them, they can have like a quiet sense of community. Camera off, mic off, chat off. They don't, like, they're there because they register for the meeting, but community for them does not require them to be interactive. It's just, as you say, dedicating the time, scheduling it, planning for it, showing up for it, and making a decision on how they're going to use that time. Nobody needs to see them for it to work. And you mentioned earlier that you don't even have to know who the other person is. Like body doubling or virtual co-working is totally different than any other kind of meeting we might have. Because stop me if I'm wrong, but one of the things I hated most about working in organizations before I went out on my own was so many meetings that really served no purpose. Like there were meetings for the sake of having meetings, and you would spend sometimes half your day in meetings during which nothing got done. And in many cases, nothing even got decided. It got rolled over to the next meeting. And then you've got to fit your work in to whatever part of your day is left over after the meetings have taken up most of it. Co-working, you're actually getting something done during the meeting time, which to me totally changes the way it feels. It's a meeting that's not a meeting because you actually get shit done.
I love that way of thinking about it, Diane. And one thing that I'm really excited about is when we have a team that's working with Focus Space and everyone's bought in, and then they all can share their goals with each other for the day. And so they can see like, hey, my goal is to be heads down, no meetings day for me. And once you see that on the platform, you're able to all jump into a community session and all be bought in and on the same page of, we're using our time more wisely and we're communicating better than we would if we were in this meeting, especially for the introverts in the meeting or the ADHD-ish in the meeting who are maybe not really
Paying attention.
totally. Yeah. Right. So this feels like, to me, the future of work, which I know is like everyone's talking about their own version of the future of work with AI and all these other ideas of hybrid models, et cetera. But the future of work to me is feeling more connected, more communicative, less meetings. It's been really interesting to be a part of this conversation as a member of the focus based team. And it's interesting to see what management values too, because sometimes what they're valuing is not necessarily the productivity, but it's the team culture.
Mm.
And so a lot of companies figure out ways to do an all hands or to bring folks back to the office more regularly with new policies. But they're not necessarily always saying we need our workforce to be more productive. They're saying we need our team to feel more like a team. And right now it feels so disconnected. And that's one
Mm.
thing that we've been finding as we talk to more companies and we talk to more of leadership. And I like that kind of leadership, the kind that's the people oriented, not the let me burn my people out for the sake of productivity and make them get back on their commute, or try to force this idea of a certain type of productive culture. So that's one thing I've been really appreciating is working with folks who are interested in what we're doing, is they're not all about that meeting quota. Yes, we got to run a business here. We got to make things move. But at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all trying our best. And all we need to do and can do is just empower each other to do our best work in the way that's going to work for us. And if that means body doubling, going into an office, or working weird hours because you've got a lot of other stuff going on at home, then that can be okay. So those are the types of leaders that I think are actually going to take us into the future of work, and that I hope to see continually espousing those ideas at their companies and being promoted into leadership, so that we can see that kind of culture start to thrive throughout the future of work in different companies.
I could not agree with you more. And I honestly believe, I might be off my nut here, but I really do believe that what's good for us is good for them. What's
Mm.
good for the workers is good for the business. I really don't think most people are at odds with their employer. They maybe just don't feel like they're playing on the same team. Like if they don't feel that their contributions are actually acknowledged or that they matter. If they feel they're just a cog in the wheel, if they feel they're just a pawn on the chessboard, if they feel they're just a spot on the org chart and that literally anybody else will do, just like take me out and put someone else in, like I don't even matter, of course you're not going to get their best.
Mm-hmm.
Of course
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be quietly quitting. Of course they're just going to dial it in. And I think even before the pandemic, and apart from, but in addition to working remotely, people don't by and large feel connected to their employers. I coach people who own businesses who are largely neurodivergent people. And sometimes those conversations, when we first start working together, come down to how do I inspire my employees to work harder? How do I get them to buy in to the mission and vision of the company? I don't really think it's a how do I get them to do, because chances are we're not offering people something to attach to that has value to them. Now, honestly, there are going to be people, and there's nothing wrong with this. There are going to be plenty of people who really they'll do any job. They don't really care. They're not looking to their job to give their life purpose or meaning or significance. They just need to meet their financial needs and provide financial stability and security for themselves and their dependents. So they'll do anything. They don't really care. I think that's actually a much smaller number than the norm. I think most people want to work for companies where they feel like whatever they do at whatever level, that their being there, their being a part of the team actually matters, actually makes a difference. Because then that sort of, it's like it activates your creativity, it activates your drive.
I love that. And it makes me think of improv comedy, which I teach as well outside of my hosting at Focus Space. I teach at a theater here called Third Coast Comedy Club in Nashville, and also for a nonprofit called Unscripted. And when I talk to students, a lot of what they get out of this is that we're all working together and we're all part of something larger than ourselves, just like the rowing team, just like the type of team culture that we would like to see in the world is forming this what I call group mind, and what a lot of other improv instructors talk about, of how do we all, and not in like a culty way, but how do we form together one singular and collaborative way of thinking where we're all building something together and we're all creating a scene or creating a montage of multiple scenes or a stage picture that complements each other, where everyone's equal and there's not one star. It's not a theater production, it's not a stand-up comedy, it's truly an ensemble and a group that is becoming a cohesive, or creating art cohesively. And it doesn't always have to be funny too with improv. It just feels really good when you're with a group of people and you're all on the same page and you get to make something together.
I'm so glad you brought up your improv work, because I know that's something else that you've done for over a decade and you're very, very passionate about. And I've noticed that a lot of people with ADHD are attracted to improv, even if they haven't gotten into it. When we first moved from Portland out to the Palm Springs area, I was looking for an improv group, and I haven't found the right one yet. But I thought, maybe I'll just take a class and do stand up. And I realized exactly what you're saying is true. I know how to be funny. I know how to tell stories. I know how to make people laugh. I know how to make fun of myself. Like, that's already a skill I have. But the skill of being part of an improv troupe is the ability to like not have to be the star of the show, not have to be the center of attention, not have to be the one who frankly carries the burden or the responsibility of making the scene work. You are one of the performers. You are part of the group, and you really develop this intimacy and this interdependency combined with risk taking. Because I think one of the things that's attractive to me about improv is that if you're going to be any good at it, and if you're not going to be any good, like why bother? Like I think it's the ability to take risks and be vulnerable with others in a communal setting. I can see so much potential to develop a lot of things that people that are ADHD-ish sometimes lack, like greater
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness, greater self-acceptance, greater management of our rejection sensitivity, getting better at kind of like reading the room and being dialed in on what's going on with other people instead of always in our own head, and also being able to bounce back from the inevitable mistakes, missed opportunities, and failures. Like all of those are things like, even as a therapist, I was helping people with ADHD work on. But improv may just be the perfect container, and you don't have to sit on a therapist couch. Like, I'd love to know what your thoughts about that, because I know you are also a mental health advocate and you probably have a lot to say on the topic.
I yeah, I am in complete agreement with everything that you just said. And I also had the chance to sit in on an improv for anxiety class. We offer one through the nonprofit Unscripted I mentioned. And there's a mental health therapist who is in every class and
Mm.
is helping to dissect and reflect on the ways that the improv exercise is taught, come back to managing anxiety, managing being in the moment. And I think a lot of that can also apply to someone who's ADHD-ish. And also, I think there's a lot of ways that folks who are ADHD-ish are going to excel at improv because we're so good at context switching, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
not good at it, but we can hold a lot of context.
Mm-hmm.
And we're good at connecting all these pieces together in a way that others might not be able to. And so that makes us easy to perform or rehearse or try out improv because we can be so in the moment and also bring back pieces that then delight our fellow improvisers or the audience if we're performing. And so I really like that part of improv, is being able to connect all these different things and bring them back. Or sometimes you might hear that's called a callback. And there's also that validation piece of, if we can make people laugh, that's a huge dopamine hit. And
Mm.
we're able to really enjoy and appreciate what we're doing on stage or in a rehearsal. There's also the newness aspect for ADHD-ish. It's important for us to have that newness factor and enjoyment out of what we're doing. And that's been really neat because every time you improvise, you're coming up with something new, and it's going to be totally different from what you've already done.
Oh, I love that. The novelty seeking. And also, I've always thought, because I'm pretty impulsive, I've always thought that was a bad thing. Certainly got me a lot of negative feedback in my formative years. But now I choose to think of that impulsivity as spontaneity and willingness to take a risk, willingness to fail, willingness to make a mistake, willing to like have the joke not land, or to introduce something into a conversation that I think is fucking brilliant and it just goes nowhere. But we become more resilient when we learn how to try things regardless of whether we get a reward or not. The reward comes in the fact that you tried. The reward comes in, well, I put myself out there. And yeah, maybe somebody didn't pick up on it, but I put myself out there. Like, did you notice that? Like, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And even for a person who is more shy or more reserved or more withdrawn, I would also think that body doubling or co working might be a great place for people to develop a little bit more comfort and a little more skill interacting with others in an impeccably safe space.
Yes, definitely. Just knowing that there's someone there, don't need to interact with them, but they're there might give you a little bit of comfort. And then if you keep coming back, maybe you might start engaging with that community, because as you feel more comfortable and safe, you're able to make someone else new feel more comfortable and safe,
Mm.
and or share what you've been up to all this time that you might have been a little bit quieter than other folks in the community.
And you can pace it your own way. Like, there's one of the things I really like about how you do this compared to the other platforms is there's there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of flexibility, as we've been talking about, how you can kind of customize your experience of the community according to your own needs, wishes, wants, preferences, and priorities. But you also create enough structure in the container that it's not like we're not free ranging it. You're not just showing up going, like, I hope something happens here. It's like the way you start with the meditation, the way you start with the check-ins. It's like there's just enough guidance that people don't feel like they need to figure everything out. Like, you provide that, but it's enough structure, and I think of it more of an invitation than an obligation. Like, okay, we're going to start with this. You don't have to meditate if you don't want to. Twiddle your thumbs. You can stare out the window. You can balance your checkbook. Like, but this is how we're going to start. And it's like you get to do what you want and you don't have to do what you don't want. And I think the flexibility of that, but also the structure of it. Because I don't know about you, Becca, but I do best with structure. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't like that that's the case.
I completely get that. And one thing I'll mention is that we usually host an hour and a half sessions throughout the day. And even on the weekends, we have even longer sessions. And we use the Pomodoro method, which
Mhm.
has been helping folks with ADHD for a while now to add some of that structure. And so each session we have has 25-minute sprints following that Pomodoro technique. And you can do one sprint and then head out, or you can do half a sprint if you got to run, you got to run. It's very calm and welcoming. So you don't have to have all the structure, but it is there. So that I like to say at the beginning of a session, we've got 3 25-minute sprints. If you want to do one thing for each sprint, great. If you want to do one thing the whole time, also great. But we're going to have breaks and we're going to stretch a little, breathe a little in between each of those 25 minutes. So you're not so bogged down and on your computer the whole time, staring and not getting things done as joyfully and maybe easily or productively as you might with those breaks and with that added structure.
I love
and I wanted to add too, like, we have structure sometimes in our day, entrepreneur or not, based on our work schedules and our meetings and our bosses. But it's different when you have structure plus accountability, back to that word we were talking about earlier, because the accountability from your manager and the company is not the same kind of accountability I get from a body double or a host on Focus Space or a new friend that I've found in the Focus Space community. It's going to feel a lot different when I get that kind of accountability versus the accountability of something I'm feeling maybe tied to.
And I think you guys do such a good job of normalizing that it's just easier, better, and frankly, more fun to get things done this way. Like, why do you have to white knuckle it? Just don't. Doesn't have to be that hard.
Exactly. There's a better way. And hopefully we can make the conversation a part of this future of work conversation of that this actually is going to be the future of work. You know, it's again, not white knuckling it and making things feel a little bit more communal, connected, celebratory, even if it's just doing laundry, even if it's writing one page of that document that you've been putting off. I think there is a way that we can all accept that sometimes just sitting with another person and getting cheered on is going to make this better. Whether or not, again, you have ADHD or you're ADHD-ish, you'll probably feel pretty good about something, even if you haven't finished it fully by the end of a community session that we host, for example. You'll still have that community cheering you on and having your back in a way that you might not have in your day-to-day life at work.
Most of us need to have our own back and want to be celebrated. Like, you often talk about cheering people on, and you in particular are really exceptionally good at that and really enjoy that. And it's a natural part of your personality. And I think that's another thing we need to normalize is that, hey, listen, I got news for you. I don't care how old you are and how much of a grown ass human you think of yourself as. We are all little kids that need a sticker or a cookie or a pat on the head. And there's nothing wrong with it. Like put yourself in a situation where you can get the cookie, you can get the sticker, you can get the pat on the head, and you can give that to other people too, because it's freaking normal. Like, we need to stop acting like, well, I'll celebrate when I accomplish something really massive. No, you won't. No, you freaking won't. Because celebrating movement, celebrating momentum, celebrating effort, not just results, is just not a normal part of our culture. It's part of like this whole Puritan work ethic that so many people are raised with and how it's been drilled into them. And then people end up doing all kinds of weird things to reward themselves that are dysfunctional and unhealthy because we've taken the normal way of saying, hey, good job, and made that a sign of like immaturity or weakness. It's like, I say bring back the sticker charts for grown-ups.
Yes. I will totally give you a sticker.
I will. Maybe you and I need to do a joint venture and create sticker charts for grown-ups. I would totally be down for that.
I'm in. I'm so in.
So as we wrap, we have a special offer using my special code. I want you to be the one to introduce it.
How exciting. Well, I'm so glad that we're partnering with you, Diane, and I can't wait for some of our community members to check out your podcast too. Speaking of which, the code that anyone listening can use to try out Focus Space is ADHD-ish, and you'll get a free month of Focus Space. So a full 30 days of accountability, getting cheered on by me and Diane. And from there on out, you'll get 25% off the rest of your membership month to month.
Who doesn't
and
like
would
a
love
deal?
to see you on it. You loves that?
And who doesn't like a deal? Like, as long as you're going to get all these other benefits, get the deal. So make sure you use the code. I'm going to link to that in the show notes. I'm going to link to all of the things that Becca and I have talked about, obviously including Focus Space, where she teaches improv in case you happen to be in Nashville, and everything else. And can you tell me, do you know when the procrastination playbook is going to be available for Focus Space members?
Yeah, so it's already available. If you go to our site, we have a downloads section, and it's one of our downloads that you can get. And we have lots of fun exercises in there that make procrastination easier to beat. You can't eliminate procrastination completely, if I've learned anything, but you can tackle it in some new fun ways. So I hope folks can check that out, and I'll give you the link for that too.
Fantastic. I love that you called it a playbook, by the way, because like more play, in case you haven't, and for those in the back, in case you haven't heard the message, in case you haven't understood the assignment here, more play and more fun, right? We got to get it done anyway. So let's make it more playful, more fun, and more connected. Love it.
Me too.